Hey there, CPO here, and you might notice I'm missing the front bumper. That's because today is front bumper day. I'm putting on the Excessive Industries nearly bolt-on front bumper. Just like the back, it's nearly bolt-on because we got to do some work first. I'm going to do some cutting here and here to make this thing sit up nice and tight. And then also, because I happen to have an extra add-on that allows me to put a light bar down below, the crash bar is going away. So should be a pretty entertaining video watching me cut once again on overclocked. Let's see if I do it without destroying anything or hurting myself. The first thing I notice when I take off my front bumper is how much wire I actually have coming to the front bumper. It's quite fascinating, actually. This is the winch positive lead from the battery and the winch negative lead. And you're probably thinking, oh no, don't do it, I have a fused circuit breaker for my winch that is off. So that's why there's no power coming to this. So this is positive and negative main leads for the winch. This is for my bumper light bar. This is for the winch controls that I have in the cockpit that mount to the top of the winch solenoids. This is ground for my light bar. This is for the factory fog lights, which I'm not actually using in this, so I'll probably tie these up. And then finally, I've got this guy, which is my antenna cable. You might recall I have my CB antenna up front. I'm gonna have to figure out how to make that happen as well. I will have to do something with this because the bracket that is holding this on is about to get cut, but that should be pretty easy. Let's do it. So Excessive Industries gives us this little template that we use to cut where we need to cut for clearances. Now the template, you got to know which way to put it. So let me help you out here. It's going to go like this. The two wide bolts are going to align here, and then the tall part is going to go on the outside. You could take one of your factory bolts, for example, just to hold it in place. And then what we're going to do is line up all of the bolt holes, the other three here. This is going to show us where we're going to drill out this hole, and then we're going to cut out everything else that's showing. So we're gonna make a cut here, cut off the edge of that, drill a hole, and then we're gonna cut out this center piece right here as well. So what I'm gonna do is grab a Sharpie to make those marks, and then we will cut it out after that. All right, so I got both of the little frame sections cut out, the middle cut out, the extra hole drilled in for the mounting bolts. And if you were just installing the bumper, you'd be done. You could put your bumper on. Actually, let's paint it up, but you could put your bumper on at this point. But because I'm removing the crash bar, I'm doing that next. So basically what I'm doing is cutting off the bottom of this all the way around, and this piece is coming off. Now you're probably thinking, hey, CPO, don't you need a crash bar? Well, I have a crash bar that's about to get installed. It's called an Excessive Industries bumper. So yeah, so a lot of people remove this for extra clearance, but we're gonna put a really beefy bumper across the top of this thing, which will more than suffice where this is missing. Bye-bye, crash bar. All right, so I've got my vacuum pump relocated. As you can see, I don't know if you can see, maybe you can see in there, there's a stainless steel self-drilling screw. There's two of those in there holding that in place. There's just that bracket there that I could drill into without having to drill into the frame to remount that. Crash bar is gone. The frame ends are cut and holes drilled, and I'm now ready to set that bumper in place. And we hope at this point that it goes smoothly. All right, so one thing I am gonna do before I put the bumper on is do a little bit of thread cleaning. So I always get these thread repair kits from AutoZone. You can borrow them. They have a loaner program. And I pretty much use this on almost every project for some reason. So it's a great thread cleaning, thread repair / tap and die kit. But I've got these posts here, and then the threads that I need to clean out, you know, from the painting. But by cleaning them out before I try and raise the bumper, it means I don't have to mess with that part once we get started with lifting this thing up. So in my opinion, the easiest way to find the correct thread is to take the hardware, the new hardware that comes in the kit, and then test that against one of the thread repair, in this case a die. But as you can see, the 1/2 inch threads on properly. So that's what I'll use to clean the threads on the bumper. Sometimes when it's full of paint, it's hard to tell exactly which size. So taking a clean new bolt to check that thread size is probably the easiest way. All right, so another thing I need to do before I get this bumper mounted is put the winch into place. It's gonna go right here, and as you can see, if you get back down in here, some of those holes are not gonna be easy to get to once that bumper is up there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that first, and then I'll also mount the light bar right here in this light bar channel. If I get all that done now, that'll save me a lot of trouble in the long run. So I really only had to widen these holes out like a smidge, like literally, probably more knocking most of the paint off. All right, the winch is bolted in. I intentionally left the fair lead off for now. That'll be easy to do. And probably easier when the bumper is upright. Slip the fair lead on, bring the rope through, put the Factor 55 splicer on. But let me put this light bar on now. So there's 4 holes across the bottom here. My light bar has sliding brackets. So I've got 2 holes. It looks like I may be able to get the outermost holes, or I could move it forward to the innermost. You can either put 4 individual lights or a light bar. It just helps if you have a light bar like this that can slide. So I'm gonna have to find an Allen wrench and slide these around a bit. This is why the crash bar had to go away, so that I could get this in here. So here we are, the final completed project. We're a couple days past the install because it started to rain. It was actually raining pretty much every day, including the days I was trying to work on this. It's been raining even all day today, but finally cut out long enough for me to come out here and get a quick video with you. So this is the completed installation of the Excessive Industries NBO nearly bolt-on front bumper. It went pretty smooth. I will say, I don't think it was as smooth as the rear bumper. So I had to remount my vacuum pump. I could have relocated that, and in hindsight, it might have been better to relocate that, and I'll tell you why here in a second. Everything else, you know, when I put the bumper on, the studs lined up perfectly in the holes, but from the backside, putting the bolts through, there were a couple of holes in the frame flange that didn't quite have the room I needed to get into the bumper. So I had to widen out a couple holes. So I had to, you know, put up bumper, look, take it down, do a little bit of hole enlargement, put it back up, check it, take it down. So I did that a few times, not too big of a deal. What I did find though, originally I started out trying to drill the holes out. Eventually I found it was actually easier to use a file and just grab a round file and file them out. But let me show you this a little bit closer. All right, as you can see, I did put my CB antenna right back where it was, which is on the front bumper. So I had to drill a little hole there. No big deal. Got that lower light bar all adjusted, got my license plate mounted. Basically, I sandwiched it up between the fair lead and the bumper, and then took a little hammer, bent it to shape, and then actually, I don't know if you can see this, sort of folded the inside over, and it's completely clear of the rope. So just in case you're wondering about that, that shouldn't be a problem. So I mentioned the possibility of relocating this vacuum pump. You know, the problem is the bolts I need, two of the bolts I need to install the bumper are back in here, which makes this really hard. So if I would have relocated that, tightening up these two, actually it's a nut and a bolt, would have been a lot easier. But I had to get creative with flexible sockets and extensions to make that happen. Still entirely doable, but just know that this is going to be a pain in the butt for you when you go to bolt this thing in. Let's see what else. It does come with crush nuts for the studs, which was kind of nice. So you don't need to worry about thread lock or anything like that. I did use a anti-seize on everything. As a matter of fact, as with anti-seize, I pretty much got it everywhere. As you can see here, it's got the high lift jack points there, so you can shove the foot of the jack inside there and get a nice secure jacking point. And it doesn't go into the tire area, so even though it looks like a mid-width bumper, it sort of has the attributes of a stubby. It does, you know, come off the frame a little bit, but not really enough to get in the way of what's in front of the tire. So from an approach angle aspect and things like that, you definitely have the freedom of the tire. And then of course, you have a little bit of a hang down here, but it's actually still higher than that crash bar was, and definitely higher than the bumper that I had on before there. So anyway, all in all, super pleased. Everything went, you know, as expected. Like I said, the biggest challenge I think for me was the nut and bolts that was behind the vacuum pump there. And man, I don't know. That's about it really. So this is it. Excessive Industries nearly bolt-on front bumper to now match the rear bumper. Man, I like how much room I have in here now. It's kind of nice actually. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.